The story takes place in Ukraine in 2014, in a tense atmosphere due to the war against the Russian invaders in the Donbas region. Nikola, a pacifist university professor, and his wife, Nastia, live on the outskirts of a town, surrounded by nature. After drawing a bird, Nastia enters their home, wakes her husband, and they share an intimate moment. After that, Nikola sets off by bicycle to the university. Once there, he greets everyone as he makes his way to his office, where a television is broadcasting a Russian sniper shooting. The news then continues by showing a map of Crimea, now dominated by Russia. Later, Nikola uses a rebellious student to give an example in physics. This upset Ivan, who, at the end of the class, threatened the professor by calling him an outcast. Back at home, Nikola and Nastia are interviewed live by a reporter. The couple explains that they decided to live using ecological resources for the sake of the planet while they await the birth of their child. Later, Nastia explains that the peace symbol she drew on the grass represents the white crow, a legend of a divine creature that for every natural resource it gives to humans, sheds one of its white wings. The reporter and the cameraman leave rather hurriedly, confused by the couple's peculiar lifestyle. That night, already in bed, Nastia gives Nikola his new creation, a small wooden statuette of an angel. The following morning, while riding to work, Nikola notices some suspicious soldiers parked along a rural road. At the university, he realizes that there is no one around and sees on a television the panic that the Russians are causing in the major cities. Frightened, he hurries back home, only to find that the soldiers are no longer on the road. On his property, a couple of Russian soldiers subdue and beat Nastia, identifying her as a spy. Enraged, Nikola arrives and tries to defend her, but he too is restrained. One of the soldiers enters the house, examines photos and belongings of the couple, and then sets a fire. As the soldier leaves the home, his companion orders that they leave, kicking Nikola and heading toward their vehicle. In that moment, Nastia grabs a stone from the peace symbol and, furious, tries to attack her aggressors. It is all in vain, for one of them immediately shoots her, and they leave the scene. A broken Nikola takes the body of his deceased wife, pleading with her not to die, as their house is consumed by flames. Shortly afterward, a pair of armed local civilians find him huddled next to his beloved. After identifying the widower as one of their own, the civilians begin to fashion a grave for the woman amid the rubble of the house. Nikola finds the little wooden angel. Finally, he places it with his wife in the pit so that his new allies may bury her. The civilians then take the widower to a Ukrainian resistance camp, even though a general scolds his men for bringing him, fearing he might be a spy. During the ensuing discussion, Nikola reaches for a rifle on a nearby table. Quickly, the general and several men detain him, and he responds that he wants to avenge the harm done to his family. For that reason, Nikola is put through training with the other soldiers, undergoing physical fitness tests and unarmed combat trials. During one such test, he proclaims that he is no longer a pacifist and that his new code name is Crow. The general mocks him and tells him he must first earn that name. The next day, more evaluations are set. At first, Nikola struggles to complete them, but after practicing and trying again and again, he improves considerably. In a meeting with the recruits, the general asks for volunteers to serve as snipers. Nikola steps forward. Although his request is immediately rejected, he then proposes to disassemble a Kalashnikov in 20 seconds to prove his worth, and he successfully completes the challenge while blindfolded. Nikola is cheered by his comrades, while some Ukrainian army officers watch from afar, giving their approval. Now looking and dressed like a soldier, Nikola is assigned to a military training base. Alongside other soldiers, he receives lessons from an instructor who teaches them all the guidelines and objectives of being a sniper. Later, the novices line up to receive their weapons. When it is Nicola's turn, he is handed an SKS instead of the SVD he had requested. During a shooting practice, he becomes the subject of ridicule because everyone else has an SVD and he does not, but he takes it in stride, laughing and even imitating Star Wars sounds with his companions. Next, they are evaluated by Cap, who fires next to them to see if they remain still. Most fail, but Nicola passes the test. In the following class, the exam deals with the distances at which various long-range rifles can reach. The captain emphasizes that, even though the enemy might have better weapons, what matters for a sniper is not the rifle, but one's intelligence and tenacity. Then comes a shooting test, in which Nicola and 2 comrades are evaluated. While the 2 apprentices hit their target, Nicola misses his and complains about having a lower range weapon. Cap refutes his complaint, affirming that they had previously hit targets with that very rifle. Later, during a lesson on how to calculate an enemy's distance, Nicola stands out with his physics knowledge and quickly provides the correct answers. In a nighttime exam, the candidates shoot at nearby targets using the light of a flare launched by the captain. Nicola is notified that he failed. However, he insists that he never fired and remains in his position, making an incredible shot on target in the dark, a feat that is noted as positive. The next day, the captain assigns divisions to the recruits, placing Nicola in the first group. As night falls, he sings for his comrades, as he used to do with his wife, before being deployed to the front as a sniper, along with an assault team. From afar, they observe a Russian camp preparing to execute 2 enemies. However, a vehicle appears on the road, causing them to cancel their shot from the car. 2 civilians get out of the vehicle and are beaten by the Russian soldiers. After this, the sniper duo fires at the Russians, prompting the assault team to do the same and eliminating most of the enemies. A soldier takes a civilian hostage, but it does not last long since Cap executes the soldier. In the early hours, the Ukrainian soldiers arrive at a base. Nicola curiously explores the building and finds a dusty classroom. Holding the little wooden angel in his hand, he is reminded of his past life. Later that day, Nicola's friends are on a mission hunting down some enemies. Unfortunately, a Russian sniper spots them and executes one of them. Later still, a character named Two Knight returns to the base with Klim's body, much to the sorrow of Nicola and his comrades. This loss prompts Cap and a general to devise a new strategy so that no more soldiers are lost on the next mission. Under a cloudy dawn, the Ukrainian team makes its way through a field. Nicola and the captain set up claymore explosives in a forest and camouflage the trigger with a leaf. Then, from a distant position awaiting the enemy, a Russian squad finally appears in the forest. They begin the countdown for the shot, but Nicola freezes upon seeing Ivan, his former student, now fighting as a Russian soldier. Nonetheless, he fires the trigger, causing an explosion that wipes out the enemies. Upon hearing that Nicola called out Ivan, the captain asks, "Who was that young man?" The former professor replies that he was his student. After a few seconds of reflection, Cap concludes that Ivan made his choice. Observing the bodies, Nicola remarks that he too has taken a life. Later, the duo takes shelter from the rain in an improvised aluminum refuge. For a moment, Cap pulls out a photo of his family and shows it to Nicola, introducing his wife and daughters. He explains that he had agreed with his wife to tell their girls they were on a business trip, not in a war. Then he asks Nicola about his statuette, to which Nicola replies that it represents his wife and unborn child. Later still, Russian soldiers advance along a road in camouflaged trucks in a nearby forest. Nicola watches one of the trucks as it stops. The crow recognizes one of the soldiers as the man who killed his wife. Disobeying Cap's orders, he shoots the Russian, alarming his comrade. In the distance, an enemy sniper spots the Ukrainian marksman and fires at the Crow. Nikola drags his captain as they are bombarded on their way back to base. Medics cover Cap's perforated corpse, and nearby a commander scolds a defeated Nikola for his action, which cost a life, and assigns him the mission to kill the man responsible for executing Cap when he is found. Afterward, Nikola looks at the photo of the captain's family lying on his lifeless lap. On another day, 2 Russian snipers are guarding an area, one from a warehouse and the other from a pile of garbage. Nearby, Bikola is present. He kills the sniper in the garbage, but the warehouse sniper finds him and shoots, injuring his arm. In turn, Bikola manages to hit the enemy sniper in the head. Following that, he bandages his wound with a first aid kit inside the warehouse. Nikola cleans himself in a bathtub while watching news about Russia on TV. His phone rings. It's the commander calling to notify him that the sniper they were hunting has reappeared and killed 2 Ukrainian soldiers. The call ends with an invitation to a meeting to discuss further details. An hour later, Nikola appears at an Allied base and reunites with some comrades. Moments later, the commander shows a slide presentation of the Russian sniper nicknamed Sergei, the killer of Captain. He then displays a website managed by Sergei, where videos of his multiple executions are posted, provoking the Ukrainians' anger. Next, they are shown that the target is hiding with more Russians in a chemical plant, a location that Nikola explains cannot be attacked with explosives because it would cause an environmental disaster. The commander outlines an attack plan and orders the soldiers to clear the way so that Nikola can take out Sergei. Shortly before dawn, the Ukrainian squad surrounds the chemical plant from one side. Inside the building, Sergei and a Russian sniper are guarding a nearby structure. We return to Nikola, hooded, who manages to infiltrate the plant and kill a couple of Russians, including the accomplice in Nastia's execution, whose unmasked face he reveals before shooting him. After that, the Ukrainians launch an organized attack, eliminating multiple Russians at once and confusing Sergei and his partner. Sergei calls out over his radio, but no one answers, unaware that his compatriots have already been killed. Cautiously, Nikola enters the building via the stairs, while at the same time, Sergei steps out onto the rooftop. Spotting a fallen soldier, he radios a companion, ordering him to guard the entrance. Then he returns to the building and resumes his position as a sniper. Sergei is surprised to see a small wooden statuette that wasn't there before. Suddenly, Nikola drops through a hole in the ceiling onto Sergei and stabs him in the neck, spilling blood over Nastia's carved little angel. Meanwhile, the other Russian sniper is hit by a grenade thrown from a pipe by Nikola, which explodes on the spot. Nikola takes the dead man's watch and hears that Sergei is being summoned by a Russian truck arriving at the scene. The Crow responds to the enemies via the radio and proclaims that they will answer for Crimea. Immediately thereafter, he shoots the Russians in the truck. A shootout ensues. From a distance, the Ukrainian squad gradually eliminates the enraged Russians. After the combat, a devastated Nikola, whose actions have left his house in ruins, kneels by his wife's grave. He takes out the little angel statuette and asks it to remain with him forever. Sometime later, we see Nikola on another mission in a snowy wasteland, positioned with his sniper rifle and his little statuette nearby. He prays to God that those who are human will rise up against the enemy. And then, the Crow fires.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.